Hello, military and aerospace enthusiasts. Welcome to our channel, Deep Dive Defense. Over here we take a deep look from unusual angles, which may challenge your mind. So let's dive right in. Today's topic is the Shahab-3 liquid propellant ballistic missile. It became famous for enabling Iran to directly target its main regional adversary, Israel, directly from its own territory. Originating from the Soviet R-17 Elbrus design, commonly known as the Scud-B, the R-17 Scud underwent several modifications in the People's Republic of Korea, and further enhancements in Iran to evolve into the Shahab-3. By the early 90s, the work on the 500-kilometer range Hwasong-6, or Shahab-2, best known as Scud-C, was completed, prompting the Koreans to proceed to the Hwasong-7, known as the Scud-D. The expertise gained from these earlier projects enabled the Koreans to extend the missile's length, increase tank volume, and make other modifications that allowed the Scud-D to achieve a range of 700 kilometers. However, this range was not significantly greater than the 500-kilometer range of Iran's Shahab-2, incentivizing Iran to forego acquisition of this missile. Consequently, the Korean design team, in collaboration with Iranian experts, initiated the Hwasong-8 project, also called Scud-E, which became widely known as the noong. Unlike the Scud-D, which retained the original R-17 Scud engine, the noong presented a significant challenge by scaling up the design, entailing all the complexities associated with such an undertaking. One major compromise with the larger missile was the inability to transport it in a fueled state. To address structural issues inherent to the larger and heavier missile, it could only be fueled in an erected vertical position shortly before launch. This limitation was deemed acceptable due to the missile's extended range, allowing for deployment well behind the border and in areas less accessible to adversary air power. Additionally, it is likely that the Korean design team lacked the necessary expertise to ensure a structure that is transportable and can be pre-fueled. A further problem was the guidance compartment of the enlarged missile, which remained unchanged in scale. The 125-centimeter diameter missile meant that it required less length to have the same space as the 88-centimeter diameter Scud to house the same guidance system. But to simplify the design process and avoiding the risks in redesigns, such details were not changed. Additionally, the noong required a relative heavy warhead to address center of gravity issues, known from the Scud-C. Another significant challenge was developing a nose tip capable of withstanding re-entry speeds of approximately Mach 9, which was reportedly solved with an ablative phenolic nose tip. The resulting missile boasted a range of 1,000 kilometers, roughly 3 times the weight of the Scud, with an estimated warhead weight of 1,200 kilograms. It is believed that most of the missile development concluded by 1996, with some of the initial batches supplied to Iran. However, the Hwasong-8 noong was not entirely suitable for Iran's requirements, providing only a limited capability to strike Israel from Iran's western borders, covering only the northeastern parts of Israel. As a result, it is believed that the main phase of the Shahab-3 project commenced in 1996, involving Korean assistance. The Iranian modifications aimed to achieve a range of 1,150 kilometers, compared to the original design's 1,000 kilometers. Another key feature on Iran's wish list was a separable re-entry vehicle, which was likely a key enabler for a reduction in warhead weight from 1,200 kilograms to 670 kilograms, while still ensuring stable re-entry. The Shahab-3 modification incorporated a retro rocket system that activated at motor shutdown, pushing the booster stage back and simultaneously releasing the re-entry vehicle. This innovation not only resolved the center of gravity issue for stable re-entry, but also enhanced accuracy by achieving the desired precise velocity of the ballistic trajectory re-entry vehicle. This allowed for more accurate targeting through improved thrust termination timing. This feature, combined with the guidance system from the Shahab-2, mitigated velocity errors that would accumulate over the 1,150-kilometer travel distance, reducing inaccuracies and achieving a lower circular error probable, CEP. These changes enabled the Shahab-3 to achieve an estimated CEP of 1 kilometer, a significant improvement over the Hwasong-7 noong's estimated at several kilometers, giving it some military utility. The separable conic-shaped re-entry vehicle not only reduced the radar cross-section, but also introduced spin stabilization, a new innovation for Scud technology missiles. As Israel developed its Aero missile defense system during that time, the lower radar cross-section of the re-entry vehicle also became a feature that could help countering this emerging threat. A small batch of initial Shahab-3 entered operational service in 1998, believed to have lacked all the features of the final Shahab-3, or being just the imported Hwasong-7 noong. This likely didn't enable Iran to strike Tel Aviv. They were primarily intended for the counter-value role, retaliating against strikes on civilian targets. This marked Iran's first ballistic missile capability against Israel, which already possessed the Jericho-2 solid propellant ballistic missile, but also against Saudi Arabia's DF-3 liquid propellant missiles supplied by China, both capable of targeting Tehran. From the initial operational capability in 1998 until 2003, production quantities were limited and dependent on Korean supplies, foremost the engines. By 2003, Iran had achieved independent production, significantly increasing production output. Mastering the upscaled engine of the noong Shahab-3 was the last production bottleneck. To enhance survivability against enemy air attacks, these missiles were mainly stationed inside underground mountain bases. They would be driven out from mountain tunnels into deep valleys, protected by terrain against enemy reconnaissance. This was crucial because the fueling process of the erected missile could take up to 1 hour, and the accompanying fuel and propellant vehicles created a large, detectable footprint. Hence, the terrain masking technique was employed to keep the launch operations out of line of sight of adversary airborne ISR platforms. To further mitigate survivability concerns, the long range of the Shahab-3 allowed for stationing bases at a considerable distance from the border. The relatively ineffective Scud hunt by the United States during Operation Desert Storm in Iraq's flat desert conditions suggested that the survivability measures for the Shahab-3 were acceptable against adversary capabilities of that era. The road-mobile components of the Shahab-3 could also be disguised as civilian trucks, enhancing their concealment. Today, it is believed that Iran retains the capability to operate Shahab-3s, put into deep storage when necessary. Similar to the Shahab-2, these missiles can be safely stored in an unfueled state for extended period of time with low maintenance required. Stationing these missiles in the deepest parts of mountain tunnel complexes renders them virtually indestructible to adversary capabilities. However, maintaining operational proficiency with the Shahab-3, given its challenging fueling process and toxic oxidizer, likely means that only a limited number of crews are kept proficient to operate it. Following the Shahab-3, a variant with a 1,350-kilometer range was developed to enable bases deeper inside western Iran to reach Tel Aviv. This development, undertaken solely by the Iranians, included complex modifications like horizontal refueling and removal of the old guidance compartment, demonstrating a deep understanding of the missile's structural design. This essentially third variant of the Shahab-3, following the original North Korean design and the Iranian modification, became later known as the Ghadr-S. Initially still referred to as Shahab-3, this new variant paved the way for the Ghadr family, transitioning the missile's role from primarily a counter-value weapon to one of regional air power suppression. By the mid-2000s, Iran's improved industrial capabilities allowed for vastly increased production volumes of the Ghadr compared to the Shahab-3, a result of the switch from the role as a retaliatory weapon to a military tactical one. So that's all for today. If you enjoyed this video and like our work, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing. We will try our best to answer your comments. Your support would be greatly appreciated and motivates to produce more content in the future. Thank you, and have a great day.